All right, so we're sitting here, and we had a guest for tonight, but she said tonight wasn't a good night. I don't know if it was Easter or whatever, but we do not have a guest, so we're trying to figure out what we're going to talk about. Well, we started talking about, if you haven't heard, Congressman Markwayne Mullin out of Oklahoma and his issues with some quotes he gave to a town hall meeting. What did you think about those quotes before I read them, Gary?
It was entertaining. I saw it and I went, I didn't know because there's so much fake news anymore that I went, oh, okay, is this,
Well, that's what, when we both heard about it and we talked about it, we were like, all right, we got to look this stuff up. Is this real? Because we don't want to sit here and do a hour-long podcast about something that's not real. So,
I didn't know.
I watched the video.
With the clickbait anymore, you never know. And that's why I had to dig in it. And if my first thought was, he can't be this stupid, right? And don't get me wrong, our politicians are stupid. They're idiots, most of them. But I thought, no, come on. He really didn't say that. It was actually worse. It was worse than what I thought. We've dug into him. I've dug into him with my former investigator hat, and it didn't take me long to figure out what this guy was all about. He's got some interesting things he said in the past, which we'll get into, which one of them was, I don't plan to be a lifelong politician. I plan to be a life or a legislator.
He said he is not, nor does he ever aspire to be a career politician. His priority will always be to serve his constituents to the best of his ability. Crap. I lost it. Anyway, he says that he doesn't want to be a politician. He wants to be a career legislator. So in other words, he doesn't want to just do his 2 years and then get out, or 4 years and get out. He wants to continue to do it, but he doesn't want to be a politician. Nope, don't call me a politician.
Well, he's a congressman. He's in Congress. Congress is the legislative branch of the United States government. So either this ass clown needs to go back and learn how the government works, or he's playing my voters are too stupid to figure out what I'm saying. I'm basically saying I'm going to be in politics till the day I die, but I'm not going to be a politician because they won't figure it out. Even though I'm a congressman, I'm already a legislator. It's shit like that drives me bonkers. And like I said, I used to work around these guys and be around them all the time when we were doing protection and when I was in DC. And
let's go into what he said. So he's in this town hall meeting, and as everybody knows, the Republicans right now, when they do town halls, they're getting bombarded. And it's not been a very pleasant situation with them, with Obamacare and other things that they're working with. Well, somebody, obviously, whenever he was saying something and he didn't want to answer him, they told him, well, we pay your salary. So we are your constituents. We pay your salary. So he says, you say you pay for me to do this? Mullin said, bullcrap. I pay for myself. I paid enough taxes before I got to Congress and continue to through my company to pay my own salary. This is not a service. No one here pays me to go. So that response, of course, didn't go over well, and they started yelling back at him. And he said, I'm just saying this is a service for me, not a career, and I thank God this is how I make my living. So again, he says he wants to be a career legislator, and then right there he goes on to say, this is not a career. What is it? What is it?
You just have to love these guys, because it's the arrogance, and as I've said, if you were to take the makeup of today's politician in general, it fits the definition of psychopath. I mean, they have no connection, no empathy towards anyone else. They're completely self-centered, and they're completely, narcissistic, that everything revolves around them. And to say such an asinine statement, it gives me the picture of this guy is obviously, if I had to peel back the layers as a former investigator who actually ended up investigating some politicians at one point. Amazingly, most of them went away. Just throw that one out there. It is funny how these guys never get, or gals never go through a full investigation. Amazing how that works.
Yeah, I mean, how does that? I mean, that's what I'm curious. A lot, especially if you look at these people that Trump brought in, and he's trying to get national security clearances for them. So they go in, they don't have their clearance. Congress or the Senate approves them. So they come in, they haven't went through the clearance thing, and then they're not getting their clearances. It's like, shouldn't that be done before the Congress even
it's hard because usually what they have is a quick path to.
Yeah. I know it takes a long time. It took forever to get my top secret clearance.
But they're on a fast track. But even with the fast track, it still takes quite a while. So they're actually in position with they call it a temporary clearance. We used to do them when I dealt with that portion in my military career. So it was kind of it was a quick investigation to get you in the door so you could serve your role. Okay. And I think those took about, I want to say 2 weeks. And it wasn't a actual technical clearance. It was just basically an inner kind of a, what's the best way to put it? God, I'm trying to remember what we used to call them. God, I can't even remember now, but I remember because we did the paperwork on them and we'd fax them off and they were quick hits. I mean, they'd tell us really quickly. Like I said, it was usually within 2 weeks. It might have been less, that it was a temporary clearance until the other main clearance, but you still couldn't do certain things. But it's kind of hard when you get into the president's cabinet level positions. These guys are basically doing the job without being cleared. And if people don't remember too, not just to say it's one side.
Yeah.
Obama's crowd, almost none of those people should have been getting security clearances, period. Because I know what I went through and the stuff that was required and how Van Jones ever stepped 1 foot in the White House. I have absolutely no idea. You know, I mean, it's Democrat, Republican. It's just all these people. They're just so shady, have such shady backgrounds that most of them would not get a clearance if they were a normal civilian applying for a government job that required a security clearance. I would say, from what I've seen, and just, you know, there's no science, and I don't know exactly, I'd say probably about 80 to 90% of these people today that the presidents are bringing in wouldn't make it through a true clearance background. They just wouldn't. Let alone just the conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. The conflict of interest alone. I mean, it's tough. And that's, I mean, like things like this, when some idiot, the guy's only 39 and he's already been a politician, you know, for basically 5 years. He's been a congressman for 5 years. Think of that. He's 35, you know, barely knows, you know, kind of knows what's going on a little bit in life. Still kind of young for that kind of position. Never been in the government before. He's been on the private side, which nothing against that. But he made in 2015, you said he made $610,000. Mm-hmm. That's his salary. So this guy who's paid for his own salary, he's so righteous. Hey, Ascalon, how about you just donate your salary back if you're so successful and so rich and you're doing this for the public good? Why are you taking a salary and why are you doing it in the first place? You know why he's doing it? It's because the guy's probably friggin' corrupt. And that's how these guys get in. They go, oh, if I run for office, I own all these businesses. I can feed all the laws through that I need to help my business out. I can give myself all government contracts. Oh, wait. I think I have evidence of this. Hold on. I may have actually found that. Let's read something about old Markwayne Mullin and his integrity.
Well, while you're doing that, I'll kind of go back again and read what his spokesperson said.
Well, wait, I got it. Hold on. Okay. Despite describing the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009 as a horrible waste of tax dollars, Mullin's plumbing business, which was inherited from his father, accepted contracts totaling approximately $370,000 of government funds from the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. Imagine that. What a pile of shit. I mean, well, and these guys, what they do is these politicians, they think that we are so stupid and that they're so brilliant. That's when you get around them. You start to realize how narcissistic they are. They think literally no one is smarter than them and they're the smartest person in the room. And I will say this, most of the time, they are one of the stupidest, most clueless people in the room. And those are the dangerous people. The people who walk in, they go, I'm brilliant. And you go, dude, you're a moron. If it wasn't for the fact that you got elected, I don't even know what you do for a living. And, well, we see. Like I said, I don't want to say this because he probably has a lot of really good people that work for his company and, you know, supports families. But I would guess just from my experience that old Mr. Wayne Mullins here is probably not on the up and up. on a lot of things he does in his business practices, just from my own personal experience as an investigator.
Yeah. And, so he gets paid $174,000 a year as a congressman.
Which is too much.
That's a lot. I mean,
that's a lot of money.
So anyway, they asked his spokesperson. The spokesperson says the congressman is referencing the federal taxes that he and his businesses have paid to the government over the years prior to being in office. Like all business owners, Congressman Mullin pays his taxes, which contribute to congressional salaries. So what he's saying is, and this is an insult to me as a veteran, I don't support anything. I support only myself.
Yeah.
I view my tax money only going to myself, not to veterans, not to the military out there serving right now, not to anything, anything else. Pretty much this is just for me. So it's a selfish thing. And I like to think sometimes my taxes go into good things that I want it to go to. I try not to think about it going to shit that I don't want it going to. So, I mean, I kind of try to frame myself that way when I pay those taxes at the end of the year. But, that's a very narcissistic way of thinking about taxes.
Well, and again, it fits into that kind of sociopath, psychopath mentality of the me. Mm-hmm. It's always about me. And you never hear him in this. And I think he showed a lot of his true colors. He never talked about, I'm here to serve. It was more of, if you read his words and you listen to it, it's more of, I'm here to serve me. If you start cutting through everything. And that's what you're going to see. And that's what you see with a lot of these politicians today when they get into politics. I mean, people must remember, this is the same group, our Congress right now, who wrote in a special law. I can't remember what year it was, so they could insider trade off private lobbying information that they get from special interests. Most people do not understand that. I've told this story many, many times because I had to fill out numerous financial disclosures showing that I had no investments in anything I was investigating or had knowledge about or assisted in investigating. Because trust me, with the knowledge I had, especially in the big pharmaceutical companies, I could have been fairly rich off some of the insider information I had. Just with my little salary. It wasn't $174,000. I'll tell you that right now.
Why didn't you at least feed that information to me?
Oh, God, because if I got caught, they would throw the key away on me.
I don't care about you.
I know. Well, I do. We used to have a saying in, criminal justice courses, if you go to prison, it was called the double F, you either fuck or fight, So I don't want any part of that. I've been in prisons and jails, and trust me, I don't want to go. I don't want to do anything to get myself in that position or any other position while I'm in jail. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how these politicians skate through a lot of stuff. And I mean, literally think of that. Our congressmen and senators can trade on insider information that is illegal to the rest of any citizen of this country. It is illegal. This is exactly what Martha Stewart got thrown in prison for.
Bill Nicholson had to pay like $1.5 million or whatever it was to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I think it was $100,000. I think it was $100,000 profit on the trade. Mm-hmm. If I remember right. I remember thinking, yeah, she did wrong. But in my mind too, I was going, it's kind of, just interesting, the hypocrisy that they had to have, part the C to convict her because it was such a big deal. And if you look at Nancy Pelosi's one of the worst, don't get me wrong, I'm just pointing her out because she's an obvious one. It has been proven she has made a vast amount of her money off her and her husband, both on insider trading. She was the same one flying her kids around for free in her jet going back and forth. They were all getting free flights, which is again against the law for a congressman to have their family members go along. And I love that. That's my money. That's my money. I'm paying your friggin' salary. I'm paying for you to fly in that jet. And then you've got the nerve to throw your kids and family on it. And you get caught. And she got caught and she was like, I didn't know. I just went and got another boob job and got my nose and my face stretched again. I mean, how old is she? She's like 108. You can't even tell. And she'll die. And this is another problem I have with these idiots. They're now the common trend, and this guy proved it. And this is a problem I have right now, and I wish they could get this through. I know Rand Paul's been fighting this, and his dad's been fighting to get term limits. McCain says he has, but McCain's totally full of shit, because McCain's about 109.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Like, if you want term limits, prove it.
Yeah, prove it. Get out, you know. Yeah, McCain's rich. What is he doing? And he's not doing anything positive anymore from what I can see. He just blows his horn and then goes away for a while. But these people, they're coming in and they're dying. They're dying in their positions. Whatever you think of our founding fathers and the Constitution, you can have whatever you want. It is still the best document of the world for freedom and equality. I'm just going to say it that way. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's nothing's perfect by any stretch. But in our screwed up world, it's the best we got right now.
Yeah. Well, look at it back in the day.
Yeah, they never intended these people to go in there. You're looking at it. You're going to have people right now who are on path to spend 40 to 50 years in their position and literally die, take their last breath in that position. If you don't tell me there's no cronyism and there's no corruption in there, you're dreaming. You are dreaming. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
It is.
I mean, if you look, you know, and to talk about term limits and stuff like that, if you look at how the world was set up whenever congressmen in there, you know, there's never been term limits, but these people say a congressman or a senator from Kentucky would have to go all the way to Washington, D.C. by coach. I mean, there was no flying in a plane. There was nothing like that. They had to live there away from their families the whole time they were there, because you can't just run back and forth on the weekends. So you got burned out. You know, if you had any sense of decency to your family, you weren't going to make this a career. They didn't move their families to D.C.
No.
So, you know, they would do their 2 terms or whatever and then come back, and the next person would go do it.
Well, and think about it. That's by design in a way. It's not meant to be this cushy job where you get comfortable. To me, $174,000 as a congressman, sorry, buddy, that's way too much money. And especially when you look at these people who come from, I think here's what would prove that these people are actually are doing what they're saying. It would be, okay, if you make over a certain amount of money a year, come up with some arbitrary number, 200 grand, whatever. Because it is a hardship to serve, don't get me wrong, but they're well compensated now. If you make over, we'll just say this, I don't know amount, 200 grand, you don't get paid. You would eliminate a lot of the shitbirds from running right away. Because if you're making $610,000 a year, why are you running for Congress as a 35-year-old? You know, in my mind, I'm going, nah, that's not adding up.
Yeah.
And then to say, oh, by the way, I'm going to stay. I'm puzzled. If you were so concerned about your constituents and doing and helping the people, you would get in, you would do your job, and you would return to your business because you're already successful.
Well, look at the video. The video is somebody saying, you know, you represent me. They've obviously said a statement, say they were for Obamacare. Let's just say that, because I'm sure the guy's against it because he's a Republican. So they say, I'm for Obamacare, and then he says, he doesn't just say, I'm against this and this is why. You know, that's what I understand. They don't want to answer the people that are actually asking the question. So this was his way of saying, you know, I don't have to listen to you because this is the way I feel. You know, he shows no empathy to the person that's talking to him, gives a bullshit answer as to why he's not going to answer him, you know, saying, I pay my own salary. You don't pay my salary.
Yeah.
It's just,
well, and this isn't the first time this has happened. This has happened before where people have said, hey, I pay your salary because I'm trying to remember, someone was deflecting and not answering questions. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's many times, but I remember one that stuck out and someone jumped up and said, hey, I pay your salary. You know, you asshole, you know, you need to answer our questions. And who was it? It may have been Maxine Waters. I can't remember, but it was real obnoxious of the sense of, I don't have to answer shit, buddy. And everyone was like, wait, what? Don't you understand? We're your boss.
Yeah.
And this is the problem that has happened in our politics today, is that these people actually think that they don't work for us, that they don't understand that the government is funded off us, you know, and them too. I mean, if they're working and paying taxes, it's them too. And I kind of have a funny story about that, when I saw kind of the trend, this was probably halfway through my government career. I got in trouble more than once. Imagine Gary, getting in trouble in the government. I actually wasn't in trouble a lot. I just stood my ground on some things and got my butt in trouble for doing the right thing, actually. But I said, we kept getting these printers. Me and a guy, we ran an office for, we covered, I think, 4 states, 2 of us. So we ran this whole office. And we had to manage our budgets. We had gear. We had all of our, tech and everything. We had to run the whole thing. It was incredibly a lot of work. We kept getting, every year we would get printers, brand new printers, laser printers. And I remember I looked in when we first started and we got in this office, it had been empty for like a year, 6 months to a year. No one had worked in it. Everyone had left. Imagine that. And so we go back there and literally our evidence room was nothing but wall to wall computer equipment, just stuff in the box, never opened. And I remember me and him sitting there looking at it going, some of this stuff's like 5-6 years old. There was pagers. There was still pagers in there in the box, brand new pagers. Pagers hadn't been used for I don't know how long. And so we didn't think anything of it. We were busy trying to figure stuff out, but we kept getting this stuff, new printers every year. So we'd get like 3, 4, 5 printers. We wouldn't request them. We wouldn't ask for them. They would just show up. And I remember at one point I go, hey, I got to call and say something. We're wasting a ton of money on office on these printers and other stuff. I went, we need this, this, and this. And one of them was a new copy machine. Our copy machine was like 20 years old. The thing was broken. It never worked. So I said, hey, I called my boss, go, hey, just to let you know, you guys keep shipping us printers every year. We're good on printers. We don't need any more. Matter of fact, can we send them back or can we take them somewhere and trade them for a copy machine? And I got my ass handed to me. He said, you know what? That's part of the budget. We spend the money. This is what you guys use these printers. They're essential items. No. You don't understand. You need to come here. We've got about 25 printers right now in the evidence room, all brand new. We can't use these things anymore. We're overflowing with printers. And he went, okay, whatever. Blew me off. Said, I'll take care of it. I'll get in there and I'll change it. I literally got in the hot seat over that because I spoke my mind and said, hey, dumbass, quit sending us printers. And so
were they all the same brand?
Well, a lot of it, yeah, it was all HP, but that was primarily the main laser printer. This is quite a while ago. We never got to ask. That's what I mean. I never even got to ask for what to send. They just showed up. Whatever it was, it just showed up. And we weren't even given a warning. So what happened 6 months later? I get 4 more friggin' laser printers, brand new in the box. And I was like, oh my God. Call them up again. Go, dude, we got 4 more printers. Help me out here. We have no room for them. They're stacked in the hallway now because we're out of room.
And if you tried to pawn those off,
I couldn't do anything.
You'd be screwed.
I couldn't do anything with them at all. I was all, hey, I'll send them back. Please just give me the label. Let me print out the label so I can send them back to you. They wouldn't take them back. Some, I think we finally got permission because it gets even better. They didn't have them on the custody list. Like some of the really old ones had never been recorded that they'd ever sent them to us. So I was able, I think, to get rid of some of them because we didn't have any room. And they go, oh, well, we have no record of them. And I went, so what are you saying? Can I get rid of these? And they're all, yeah, just, donate them. And that's what I did. I think I donated them to the VA or something. I donated them to another government agency. So it was okay. It went federal to federal. And then I got in hot water. I tried changing our cell phone plan to save money. And I tried it again in another agency because our cell phones sucked. They were horrible. Our plan was super expensive. It didn't work right. So I went through that. But I went to another agency, and being the dumbass I am, we got bad cell phones again, right? Crappy old cell phones, and we were paying ridiculous amounts for the plan. And I finally go, hey, you know what? I've gone through this before. Let me change the plan. Let me do all the legwork, and I'll save us some money, and we'll all get new phones. Because we had broken phones. Some didn't work. And I'm all, this is stupid. So my boss goes, sure, Gary. Never gotten an email. Never got it in writing. I spent all this time and effort. I cut our plan in half and was about to get us new cell phones. I went and told the rep, I said, hey, send over the contract so we can get it signed. I got called into my boss's office. I got disciplined. I got in trouble for disobeying orders. I got in trouble for going off on my own and doing something without permission. This was near the end. And I was pissed because I went, wait a second. This is my money. I'm a taxpayer, you idiot, and so are you. I just came up with a better plan with better cell phones that's half the price. What'd I do wrong? That's what I mean. People have no clue.
Well, I mean, my story on that is, when I was in Naval Intelligence, we had our photo lab budget was like $1.1 million for a year. I mean, it was ridiculous. And the 3 years I was there, at the end of the fiscal year, we would buy a shit ton of film or digital equipment or everything to make sure we filled that budget. And then we would just go out and shoot butterflies all day, to use it. I mean, because in the government, it's called use it or lose it.
End of the year.
You get your budget, you got to spend that money. And, just one little office in one little area, we could have saved $200,000, every year that I was there. Easily stuff we didn't need.
Well, and you probably know, and I know there's government workers or former government workers are laughing right now because they know if you try and save the government money, the odds of you getting disciplined or in trouble for it are much higher than you ever getting an award for saving the government money. It was amazing, some of the crap that went down. Like bosses had cars. Obviously I was in law enforcement. I needed a car. I mean, that's how I got to places. This is how idiotic and how corrupt the upper echelons of our government are. They would, and of course I'm not mentioning names or offices. I won't get into that. That's all I need. But the bosses, remember when gas prices went up to like $5 a gallon? Mm-hmm. And in California, it was even more because California's got the extra gouge tax on everything pretty much. So it was higher. So it got so bad that it interfered with our budgets. So our bosses go, hey, you guys got to start carpooling. And we're like, okay, yeah, what happens if I have to run a lead or, I'm doing surveillance later in the day? I got to take, so-and-so or the two other people who are with me. We all live in different areas. How's this going to work? Well, during this whole time, and it was a pain in the ass. Talk about putting in way more hours and just because you're scrambling to figure out other people's schedules. Guess who never gave up their car, who did not go out into the field and did not conduct investigations?
Your supervisor.
No, supervisors. All four of them. All four. Not one of them gave up their car. Not one of them curtailed their driving. Not one time did they carpool. Not once did they drive their own vehicle because it was the right thing to do and donate a car to us so we could go out and do our job. And then we would get in trouble if we didn't get our job done, but yet we didn't have our own car to where we could go do it. And then to put a little icing on the cake just to show people. I mean, people are probably going, holy shit. I'm candy coating a lot of this stuff. There's a lot worse stuff that I won't even go into because I just don't want to. During this time, guess who got all brand new GPSs? The bosses. Not one person.
Wait, why do they need them?
To figure out how to get home and get back to the office. We were dying because one of our bosses had it, and he was a real idiot. And he was trying to figure it out. And I'm all, is that GPS? And he's all, yeah. I go, oh, did you buy one for your car? I thought his personal car, and he's at work working on it. He goes, no, it's for my work car. And then I go run down the hall. I go, hey, man, the boss got GPS. What's he need a GPS for? We're the ones who have to figure out where the hell we're using Thomas guides. Anyone who knows what a Thomas guide is, it's the old map book, and some of ours were 10 years old because we'd passed them around so much. And we're working all over, one of the biggest cities in the country. So we don't know where the hell we're going half the time. And we come back, I kid you not, they didn't even blink an eye. They didn't think anything was wrong. We're under budget constraints. They're not giving up their car. They're getting brand new GPSs, and you just sit there and go, and you wonder why we were nearly, $20 trillion in debt? I'll tell you exactly why. It's that. And they'll always say the answer you get back from a politician when you say that, they go, that's just pennies on the dollar. Bullshit. I'll tell you right now, when I was doing Medicaid and Medicare fraud, the estimate we were getting, I believe it was through GAO, was somewhere around, I think they said around 10%, 10 to 15% was considered fraud. From what I was seeing as an investigator on the ground and dealing with these people, I would say 50% of it was fraud, at least. At least. So think of Obamacare and all this. I'll tell you right now, that is strife with all kinds of fraud. And if people think that healthcare fraud, and I used to get in arguments because I was doing it, and then they go, healthcare fraud, do you even need a gun for that? I go, dude, you have no idea who's involved.
We're one of the worst states for Medicaid and Medicare fraud here in Kentucky, especially Eastern Kentucky. And you tell me you're not going to go there to bust somebody, some lawyer or some judge down in Pikeville or Harlan or somewhere like that, man. You're going to be less armed than that every citizen in that town.
Well, not only that, but for us on the big scale side, and you'll see these busts come across for a lot of money, and they're just putting them in news. They're scratching the surface. It was we were doing Russian mafia cases. The Russian mafia is heavily, and the Nigerian crime syndicates are heavily involved in Medicaid and Medicare fraud. People go, why would they do that? Because it's big money, low risk. And what they would do when they get caught, most of them were here illegally anyway. They would just bust. They would go get in jail. They would bond out, and they were gone. They would take off right away, and it didn't take long to get millions. I mean,
they set up the dummy offices.
We did a lot of that. But the thing about the Russian mafia was, dude, you want to talk about violence, just start screwing around with the Russian mafia. You know what healthcare fraud was, the Russian mafia? It was a joke. They were laughing all the way to the bank because they're all, why we got to peddle and deal with drugs and gangs? We just rip off the U.S. government. There's no better way to go. And if you cross those people, and they made witnesses disappear here and there. It was the real deal. So don't tell me. That's what I mean. You're looking at, if not I think it could, besides the military, healthcare, I think, is the second biggest expenditure. I got to remember my stats. I can't remember now.
It's got to be.
It's got to be. I think we're coming close to $3 trillion, if I heard the number right. And when I was in, it was $1 trillion. It was roughly $1 trillion when I was in. So yeah, think of the waste going on. And people always wonder, well, how did we get to this point? In the microcosm, look at our buddy Mullins. And that's exactly how we got in this position. And then there was, what was that one? Was it a congressman that was decorating his office?
Oh, yeah.
And what was it, that
I think
show?
It was Indiana, maybe, but.
And thought he didn't
$30,000.
And he didn't think he had done anything wrong.
Exactly.
He thought, well, what's the big deal?
I'm just, I got to have a nice looking office when I host people.
That's what he said. That's what his answer was. I need my office to look nice to host people. Host who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what gets me now is we have a president now that all he did during his campaign is complain about how much Obama spent on vacations and playing golf and all that stuff. And it came out that if he keeps going to Mar-a-Lago every weekend, in his first year, he's going to spend more than Obama did on all of his travel the first 8 years.
But he's not taking a salary, so it evens out, right?
Exactly. And I think a president gets paid, $325 now or something like that?
I think it's closer to 400.
Is it?
Now. It's not chump change. And I don't think the president should be paid at all.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think so either. But, he and I don't know how you feel about him releasing his taxes, but he didn't put his investments in a what do you call it? In other words, he kept his investments. So one of his investments are the missile company that he shot the Tomahawk missiles, the 59 Tomahawk missiles into Syria.
Yeah, he was supposed to put it all in the trust. It was all supposed to be put in a trust.
Yeah, it's all supposed to be in a trust. So
Well, this has been going on. Cheney, one of my favorite guys. I mean, that this is sarcasm, people, and I'm sure anyone who's a Cheney fan is going, Gary, go screw yourself. He was the VP? Haliburton.
CEO of Halliburton.
And we get in a war in Iraq. That's a whole long story upon itself. Remember, we served. Me and Chambers served, so we're not total idiots on this. But he got a bonus the very first year and no bid contracts. Halliburton had no bid contracts, which is unheard of most of the time. And he bonused $48 million the first year of the Iraq war. I remember when I read that, I went, how is that not illegal? How can that possibly not? And again, I don't want to pick on Democrats or Republicans because like I've told you, they're the same shit.
Both sides, yeah, it's the same.
Yeah, it's the same shit sandwich, just a different stink. I mean, it looks like shit. It smells like shit. It's shit. That's what you're getting. And there's and people always say, well, how do we fix it? You guys, they're getting, I always get, well, you complain about a lot. I don't know. I wish I had the answer. It doesn't matter who you put in there anymore. What do you expect? Do you think any billionaire in this, I hate to be this way, but everyone knows me. I shoot straight from the hip. I tell you how I feel from my experience dealing with people who tend to have a lot of money who I've investigated. White collar criminals. You do not become a billionaire by being a nice guy and treating people. I'm just going to go out on a limb there. I'm not going to say everyone. Some people may have caught lightning in a bottle and things might have lined up just right, busted their butt, put a lot of work in. But from what I've seen, for you to become a billionaire, you have screwed a lot of people over in the process. So you think that person's going to become president and suddenly get a conscience and change their stripes? Nah. Why do you think he's down? He's there. He's not in the White. That dude, the White House is like me going down and living in a cardboard box under a bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way him and his wife are going to spend any time in the White House. They're probably cringing the whole time they've ever been in there. He probably takes a shit on a, diamond, coated, gold-plated toilet seat, for God's sake.
Have you seen the pictures of his house?
Oh, they're ungodly. Yeah.
Everything's gold, like gold. Everything is, it looks like the Saudi princess.
Exactly. Yeah. And don't get me wrong. What are you going to do? I'm so discouraged. This was the first time in my life I did not vote.
I voted for Gary Johnson.
That's what I was going to do, but
Gary Johnson was a flake too.
Oh, he was goofy as all hell, but he would have been a better choice. I think I like Gary Johnson. He's just a goofy guy. He entertains me at the very least. Yeah, but what are you going to get? I mean, at this point in stage, I don't think an average everyday person would be able to survive in today's political climate with all of the gerrymandering going on, which is redistricting. Mm-hmm. They love to use that word. So see, that's another thing too. Politicians are slick. They like to use words that you don't quite understand. So gerrymandering is redistricting. That is what that means. So if a politician, this happened to Allen West, whether you like him or not, they didn't like, and it was Republicans. He was a Republican, but he was kind of more moderate and more in the middle-ish. Democrats and Republicans both redistricted his ass because they didn't like him. He was bucking the system. He was pissing them off. So they just basically redistricted him to where he couldn't get his voting block anymore. And they shuffled the block over. He was done. And this happens all the time. Mm-hmm. So I think the average person who tries to run, if you're lucky enough to get elected and get in, you're either going to be coalesced, you're going to be brought into the bunch, and you're going to do as you're told, or they're going to take you out.
Well, I've got an acquaintance of mine who was going to run for Congress. So what happens is when you decide you're going to run and you get some support, they take you to Washington, D.C. and do what's called congressional boot camp. So you go up there for a few days, you shadow congressmen to find out what they do every day, and then they sit down and kind of tell you what they expect of you. And he said the biggest thing that he was surprised by was how many hours a day you're supposed to spend on the phone.
Fundraising.
It was like 8 hours a day you're supposed to be on the phone calling people trying to get money. How can you run a government if all you do all day, full time basically, is cold call people?
Well, that's another problem. So there should be term limits. And it's just like I heard the stat. Obama at this point, after his first election, when he started fundraising, or maybe it was he was fundraising for the next re-election, he had $16 million raised at this point. Trump, I hope I have the number right, has $55 million raised at the same point Obama did. And I'm thinking $55 million. How about $55 million period? Well, that's, if we were truly wanted a representative and the government wanted us to elect a representative we believed in, they would put in, campaign finance reform, which is a whole nother joke.
Yeah. Well, the year that the Supreme Court said that corporations should be treated as individuals and they could donate whatever they wanted to donate,
it was over.
It was over. We completely lost we lost probably the last congressman that was probably fighting,
Yeah. Well, think about it. Why should a president have unlimited coffers, presidential candidate, unlimited coffers to run for office? If this was fair, what they would do, they would say, you got five, you'd have to be, it would be tricky because the network, there's so many networks, but say the top 5 networks, each one gets a debate. Each one. That's all you get. You don't get any ad time. You don't get to put out, I'm totally against advertisements on TV because you can and PACs, because now you can lie about everything.
Yeah.
And they hide behind the PACs now. All of them were going, well, I never approved that. That's a PAC. Oh, bullshit. Come on, dude. We're not that stupid. Ted Cruz was famous for that. I would never say that. Oh, sure. Oh, Teddy. I bet, and we would say no PAC commercials. No, there shouldn't be PACs. I mean, not on a money level. If you want to go out and you can knock on doors, fine. And volunteer. No one's paid. It's all volunteer. And that you get, as president, say, I don't know, maybe a budget to travel of like $1 million, maybe $2 million. And everyone gets the exact same amount. So say you're running for Congress or you're running as a senator, congressman or senator, you get a cap of what you can run on. So say you want to see, I'm even against fundraising now. You would have to change it to like a $10 maximum donation. Mm-hmm. And then you would say like a company, an entire company, I don't care the size, you get a $50 contribution. That's it. That's it. I don't care how much money you bring in. That's all. We don't treat everyone equally in that sense. These companies can pour in through individual contributions hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, they just funnel it through different people. And then you funnel it through PACs, and the system is.
What killed me is like, if you look at, say, a Kentucky, complete poor state, how much money gets spent in Kentucky on advertisements? Because say Mitch McConnell or whoever's running for Democrat at the time, you have Sheldon Adelson for the Democrats, George Soros. They're pouring money into Kentucky for ads to get this certain senator of Kentucky elected. Or on the other side, the Koch brothers. The Koch brothers are paying the Republican side. So you have these outside interests buying these politicians to do their bidding. What's happening to the state? They don't give two shits about what goes on. So you look again at this Markwayne Mullin guy. He's not getting money from those people. They're not paying his campaign. They're not paying for his campaign. So he has nothing to him. So it's the guy that's putting that $1 million check into his PAC. It's going to get him reelected and keep him getting that salary every year. Well,
that's funny because you bring up a very good point, because actually Markwayne Mullin is actually correct. The people do not pay his salary anymore. Mm-hmm. When you break it down to follow the money, special interest pays politician salaries today, because it's almost impossible. There was a stat, I thought it was around 70%. I hate this because it's hard to get stats on this stuff too, because
Mm-hmm.
it's so shady.
Yeah.
But I thought I saw a stat. It was right around 70%. It may have been a little bit lower, of congressmen and senators following how much they were worth when they came in, and when they leave, how many were millionaires when they left. I worked in the government. It's pretty tough to become a millionaire off a government salary. You got to be a real savvy investor, really good one. Or you have to have a side business, which technically most of you are not supposed to have anyway. So yeah, and not just sort of millionaires, not like they're worth 1.2 million.
Yeah.
They're worth $5-10 million. And you're, well, wait a second. You've been a public servant for 25 years and you're worth $5 million net worth. I've obviously missed something here. That should paint a pretty clear picture to the American public of what's going on. And the earmarks, and we don't know what's in any of our legislation anymore. The bill will come in one form. So if you're lucky enough to understand what's in the bill to begin with, well, once they go to pass it through, they just put earmarks on it, backdoor stuff that has nothing to do with the bill. Literally nothing. It's healthcare, and they're tagging on again. And this is how they passed that law, or for Congress to be able to insider trade. That was an earmark. That was slid under the table on another bill, so you wouldn't know. So the bill has its title. Well, these guys are so corrupt. Guys and gals are so corrupt that they'll slide stuff in and attach it to it that you're not going to know about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got the leadership, whoever's in the leadership, they've got to say they want to get a bill passed. Well, in order for them to get it, they have to have enough senators to come in and vote for it. So say there's a Democrat that's on the fence. They can say, well, I know, you're on the fence, but we have to approve your transportation funding for your state. I'll tell you what, if you vote for this, we'll slide that in the bill. If not, you're not going to get that funding. So, I mean, that's how they buy that's how they buy the votes, so the leadership can pretty much buy it by forcing a state representative to completely sell out their own state.
Well, and not only that, but they'll force you in the sense that they know if you don't play ball, what they're going to do is they just won't pass anything you bring. They won't bring it to the floor, and you're going to go back and you're going to have to talk to all the people you represent and go, hey, I did nothing for 2 years. I did nothing for 6 years. Reelect me. Mm-hmm. And that's what they know. They got you. You have to play ball. If you want to get reelected, you have to play ball. And not only that, but it's so expensive to get reelected. I take that back, because historically, remember, I won't go into the names because I want to be targeted or called something that's untrue, but certain individuals would run for president every year that had no chance of ever making it. And people would go, why is this person running? Here's another scheme these guys have created, and it's on the congressman, woman, and senator side too. Well, guess what? I think I'm trying to remember. God, I should look this stuff up. It's too painful. But there's a stipulation of time attached to your campaign funding. After a certain amount of time, if you haven't spent, those dollars have not been spent, somehow they trickle back to you or something somehow. I remember reading it. I was going to research it. And I went, whoa, wait, hold on. Well, that's been going on in presidential elections for a long time. These people who never had a chance to get elected, what they were doing is they'd have this basically all their campaign donations. They would get them all in. Well, they're smart too. They create sub companies and shell companies, and they'd say, hey, I bought, so many flyers and yard hangers and all this stuff for, $500,000. We had a lot of them. They never spent one dime of that money. They funneled it in. It funneled right back around. It came right back in their bank account. And that's basically a criminal shell game. And these politicians have been doing this forever. That's why you keep seeing them, they're getting 2% of the vote. They run again. They get 1%. They run again. And they keep running and running, and then you see their lifestyle, and you're all, wait, isn't that a community organizer?
Yeah. You don't have time to have a real job.
Well, yeah, they're campaigning the whole time because that's how they're making their money. because the jobs they have are like 30 grand a year. And yet they're driving in a brand new Mercedes. They've got security guards. They live in a beautiful house. And you're all, you go, hold on a second here. I'm not quite sure how this is working. And nothing against community organizers. I'm just using that as an example because they don't get paid very much. And there's been some historically that are very, very rich. So, yeah, it's just, and you sit here and you get totally frustrated on it. And we just did an episode. This was a good one, huh? We did on managing modern stress. Mm-hmm. And you can see how worked up we're both getting. And I had to work in this shit, and so did Dwayne for a while. Trust me, if I wanted to die of a heart attack, all I had to keep doing is working in the government because it would have put me in a grave. I think it was on its way. And that's the thing, too, is this stuff, if you concentrate, and that's why I don't know a lot of the stat. It's painful for me to look this stuff up and read it, actually. I don't like reading it anymore. I don't put my head in the sand, but what it's done is it causes a lot of stress. And I start to feel the Irish in me, that guy in there punching me, going, come on, Gary, get pissed off. And next thing I know, I'm spun out of control. I'm hot. I'm really aggravated. I'm snappy. And it's all because I'm reading all this crap on dirty politicians. I'm watching too much news. So it's one thing to be informed, but you have to be real careful of how much of your time and yourself that you allow to get involved in this stuff. Because I have a simple saying that I tell people, because people always go, Gary, run for office. You can change. No, I can't. I'll be on. No, I can't. And I'm not going to. I did my time. I'm done. I'm done. And they would eat me alive. I wouldn't last. If I got elected, I wouldn't last one term. So don't beat your head against a brick wall that you can't break. I'm not saying give up, but a lot of us talk about in the self-reliance and life simplification and survivalist communities, we talk about doing the right thing from within your community. It all starts in your community. If you can, that's one thing that you can control today for the most part. Don't get me wrong, big cities are really difficult. Small town politics can be fairly corrupt too. But it's still controllable. And if you control your community, then you can start to step up and make waves. I don't know. It's a tough one because every great, like the Romans, and the Greeks, it eventually comes to an end. What is the biggest threat to humanity?
Humanity.
Humans. We eat our own. That's what we do. So you hope it doesn't go that way. But what can you do about it? It's, again, living in the moment, mindfulness, worrying about the things you can control. And it took me a long time because I had to live and go home with this stuff every single night.
Oh, I remember talking to you about when you were active, man.
Dude, I was in a bad
place.
It weighed
on you.
Near the end, I was in a dark place, man. I was struggling to keep my head afloat because being on the inside for that long and seeing the things I was seeing and going, oh shit, after you're not some, young lad and you're going, this is a great job. This is cool. I'm kicking ass. I'm doing this. And all of a sudden reality kind of sets in at some point. You go, okay, am I really making it? That was what hurt me. I went, I'm not making a difference. That was the point where I realized, oh shit. And that's when it started going south on me because I went into the government like me and you. We went to boot camp together. I went in as an impressionable young guy thinking, hey, I'm going to do my part. I'm a patriot. I need some money for school too. And, but this is what I wanted to do. And I always wanted to go and take it a step further and continue my career and serve the people. And at the point where I realized that I really wasn't doing anything, it's like my whole world just crumbled on me. That you go, shit. And I've had talks with other people who had been in the government and we just go, when you realize you're not making a difference, it's a really tough pill to swallow.
It is.
And and you can't control it. I was just a peon, the day I left, and you get that attitude that, well, I leave this office, man, I'm a go-getter. They're going to be upset. They're going to be pissed. I'm not going to be bringing in the cases anymore. I'm not going to be doing the extra hours. They don't give two shits about you. As soon as you another probably worst part was seeing people retire. You'd have your retirement party for them. You know, they did, 30, 40 years of their life serving. And I swear to God, the bosses couldn't wait to kick their ass straight out the door. And within a week, you'd literally forgotten about them. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of dawned on me too. I had a couple old timers retire who I was good, really liked the guys. And just to see the attitude turn, and as soon as they were gone, people pilfering their office, trying to steal their furniture, anything they could get, and then not talking to the people after they left. As a person you spent every day of your life with almost, and yeah, it's a tough one. I don't want to discourage people from serving though at the same point, because we do need good people. But just go in with, eyes wide open is the best way I can put it. Don't think that it's all roses and butterflies and puppy dogs.
Yeah, it's not going to be what you think. I guarantee that.
No, it's not like TV. If you watch a lot of 24 and that's your main drive to go work for the government, don't. It is not like TV. I did more paperwork and took enough courses to probably get at least 3 PhDs. I mean, the monotony and the stupid work I did, I can't even tell you. I'd say on average, I spent 25% of my time, 30% of my time doing the actual job. The other 70% was bullshit, paperwork, meetings, conferences. I don't know how many times I had to take the sexual harassment and oh God, there was multiple.
Do environmental, sexual harassment, safety,
security, safety, safeguarding sensitive documents, sensitive information. And then there was fear. What was the fear one? It was an acro. I mean, and I used to think I was smart, and I would click through them. You could click them there online, and I go, bah, 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 bah. Wait for the next one. Da, 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 da. Just keep hitting them because it would go through the slides. And you still had to answer questions at the end, but you had to be a moron not to pass the stupid thing. And it would make you retake it. So if you missed it, they got so smart on that one that you would get tagged and it would send it to your super. This is how important this shit is to the government. Not your job, not doing things, not protecting the public. I did mine, and a couple of us did. We kept clicking through it. It sent an email to my boss from Washington, D.C., from headquarters, where this came from, said, Mr. Collins took this online course that is supposed to take 4.5 hours. He did it in, 23 minutes. That is not possible by reading all the questions, because we have statistically analyzed it will take a bare minimum. And you go, and my boss showed me the email and goes, oh, and by the way, you're in trouble and you got to take it again. Does that tell you enough right there that the government has wasted all their time and money to monitor me taking some stupid course I've taken 15 times already to make sure that I don't go through it too quickly? God, why'd you bring this up, Chambers? Where's the nearest rope? I'm done. Forget it.
And here the thing is, though, the military, I will say this, the military is nowhere near as bad as that. I mean, I worked in naval intelligence. I worked with civilians. So we were probably 50% military, 50% civilians in that building. And the civilians had it so much worse.
Oh, being a civilian is
so much worse than ours.
It's hard for me to explain because everyone thinks that, all government employees, you can't get fired. Oh, no. There are certain employees that cannot be fired, but most law enforcement positions, we call them covered or uncovered. Covered meant that it was harder for them to fire you. If you were uncovered, accepted service, you could be terminated for any reason, basically. And you did have, kind of, it depended on the agency and the job, but you would kind of have it could be 1 to 3 years as your probationary period, depending. The FBI is famous for this. The FBI fires people. People never hear this. The FBI fires hundreds, if not thousands of people every year. I've known some of them, and they were good people, and they got canned for the wind blows the wrong way, and you're on the wrong side of that wind, you will get terminated in a heartbeat. And I knew a lot of people in the Bureau that got canned. In that probationary period, you piss the wrong person off, you're done.
Yeah.
Done.
And I'm sure when there's a new president elected, especially Department of Justice, FBI, things like that, those people get washed out if they're not on that side pretty quick.
Well, things have changed a lot too. When I first went, and you know this when we were in the military, you were not to talk politics.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I remember we would sit there, we were not talking, we were bullshitting about, the guy who went to Guam and, maybe had to get some antibiotics or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't talking about hardcore politics, because I remember that was kind of out of bounds.
Taboo.
It was very taboo, and you were not to take any extreme viewpoint in any manner. It was like when you signed that document, you watched that. The government owned you, and you kept your opinions to yourself. You were there to do a job, and it was good and bad. It was good because I think it kept a saner work environment. You didn't have those conflicts. You just didn't talk about it. And now, and when I was in, you weren't allowed to have Facebook, social media accounts, because Facebook was pretty new. It was still, what was the one before Facebook?
MySpace,
and all that. We weren't allowed to have them. And as I was getting out, they were allowing people to have those. And I'm all, why would you have, even if it's just personal for your friends and family, that's just a bad idea. And then if you're stupid enough to post something that could be inflammatory, and people go, well, freedom of speech, this and that. No, you're working for the government. You need to just don't do that stuff. I'm not saying we could get into a whole rights issue, but you're in a sensitive position. You're supposed to be, very non-judgmental. You're supposed to just do your job, not take sides. And once you start putting that out on social media, a lot of people have been fired. Teachers have been fired. And people go, well, that's not bullshit. If you're a teacher and you're stupid enough to put something stupid on social media, call someone names or say some racially, or call someone, a homo or whatever. No. That's just common sense. And if you can't exercise enough common sense, you probably shouldn't be a teacher or in a sensitive position. And does that mean you have to be some, political eunuch or something? No, but it's common sense that you just don't say that shit and get yourself in trouble. Can you have a political opinion? Just don't share it with everyone. Don't go on Facebook and tell people that, you don't like such and such, or, Obama's a dummy, or Trump's got a comb over and is an idiot, or what. If you're working, don't do it. Just don't do it. So, we've gotten into all kinds of stuff. I wanted to get into Casey Anthony's special. That was a good one. But that just kind of proves the stupidity. I don't know if anyone remember. I didn't remember it. The Casey Anthony one. I mean, I remembered it, but I didn't.
I remember
what happened. As far as I knew, she killed her daughter. Well, I didn't realize she got completely off. I forgot about that.
She got
completely off.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think of that, and it kind of reflects upon, again, society losing its way. It's just showing you she was guilty. They interviewed the real judge because he's retired. They had a short piece, and you just see the guy going, like, I don't know. There was plenty of evidence. I don't know what they were thinking. And it's, but just her attitude, and say, even if, she was acquitted by a jury, fine, that's the law. But any sane person who saw that, and I have a master's in forensics. So I saw the evidence. I went, oh God, she's not even sort of guilty. She's 100% guilty. There's not even a shadow of doubt of something happened. She didn't disclose it. Something bad happened. Now, can you prove that she killed her daughter?
The intent. Did she intend to kill her, or did she accidentally kill her?
You can't, but from, if you chain all of her evidence together, I forgot that she lied about her job, that she hadn't worked at that place for 2 years. She'd been lying to her parents for 2 years, getting in her car in the morning, going and driving somewhere for 2 years and telling them she had a job that she did not have. And then she takes the police to the same job and says, oh yeah, I've been working here. Starts waving at people, and people are all, who's this crazy? Yeah, who's this? And when you put it in the totality of the circumstances and you kind of walk it through, you kind of go, she had the worst, I should say the best case scenario is it would have been some form of neglect, something, her thing of the kid drowning in the pool. They could never prove that happened. And it was a weird one. It was strange, but it kind of shows you more of on her attitude of me. It's about me. I don't care. I want to have fun. And you kill your daughter in the it's just.
Oh, I forgot about all that. That her whole thing was she just, as soon as she was free, she started partying again. And
that night, the last day her daughter was seen, they had pictures of, that's what I mean. I forgot all this stuff too. And when they rewound it, I went, this is worse than even what I probably thought back then. But she was out the night of the last appearance of her daughter. She was out partying, grinding on a bar in a hot body contest that night. And you just think, wow, man, I'm glad I wasn't her kid. But just the whole dumped right down the street, in the wooded area and in the bag, and the skull had duct tape over. So I duct tape on it, and you're like, holy shit. How screwed up do you have to be? And this lady is walking around free as if nothing happened. And you just think of...
And complaining that she can't hold the job.
Yep. Well, who was that? Someone recently... Lois Lerner. Her complaining. The former secretary of was she the secretary of the IRS Yeah, right? That's a cabinet level position, if I remember.
I don't know.
But she was the head of the IRS. Well, you heard her new thing now. She's complaining that she's getting death threats and that she needs to be protected and all this stuff. And you're like, lady, you broke so many laws and you're complaining that you're getting threats and all that. And that shit's out the door. I'm sorry, but that lady ruined a lot of people's lives, and she broke some major, major laws. So again, me. Who cares about what I did to you or any of that? And it's sad. It's just sad we're in that kind of world today, but you just got to do the best you can, live your life the way you want to, and keep your head down is the way I look at it.
Yep. All right, let's wrap this puppy up. So we pretty much said every politician's a narcissist, not just Trump.
Yep.
So they're all one and the same, Democrat, Republican, it doesn't matter who it is. Be smart as a citizen, be smart, and pay attention to at least what you can control. And, if you're passionate about something, go out and do it. But man, if you want to try to run for office, you're going to be put in a grinder. And it's I thought about it. I wanted to be a politician, and then Emily said, I don't want to be associated with someone that's a politician. And I quit thinking about it, but it's a hell of a life.
The last probably 5-6 years, I've been getting hammered to run for office or do something or become a part of some sort of group and fight. And I just go, guys, you don't understand. I don't want to put myself through that. I don't. And
if you want to help people, just find something in your community that you're passionate about.
Positive. Yeah. And that's what I did. That's a good point. I started a business to help people. And that's kind of how I look at it now. How can I affect the most change that I can control? And that's kind of what you have to look at. I'm actually starting to write the pieces of an entrepreneur book. Obviously, I'm not going to write because I'm not there yet. I'm still working out, but I'm starting to talk about that and about pursuing your passions And we've talked about that too in an earlier episode.
Yeah, I mean, this is what this whole podcast is about.
Yeah.
It's about taking steps in your life to be self-sufficient.
Simplicity.
Yeah.
Because the one thing you can control, one thing you can definitely control, that's what you can control. I do it too. I know Dwayne does it. We get wound up at times. But I've learned to have a short memory. This podcast 5 years ago, I would have gotten off here and probably would have affected me for days. I would have just been pissed off, down. Now I just go, you know what, man, there's nothing I can do about this shit. Nothing. You control what you can. You do the best you can. And, hey, and you go walk your dog.
Yeah.
Or pet your dog.
All right, guys, Thanks for listening. Please follow us on Twitter at Old Dudes Podcast. Please go to our Facebook page and like us. Go to our YouTube page, like us there too. Hopefully soon we're going to start putting more content. We keep saying it that we're going to put more content on the YouTube page, but we're going to get there. I have a full-time job. Gary is busting his ass over at Primal Power Method, but we're going to do this. We want to do things for you guys. So.
And we won't talk politics all the time. Matter of fact, probably not hardly at all. This was a special because he was such an ass clown. There was so much just right for the pickings right there for us that you're like, I got to grab this one, because he's a perfect example of everything and to show you that just the way they are, just the way they are. So we're going to have guests coming up too. What are we?
We've got two scheduled. We've got a friend of mine that was in the military with me. We're going to talk about veterans getting out of the military. How that transition from being a military person to a civilian, how to make that a successful transition. We're going to talk to a friend of mine that is he works a full-time job like me. He's a project manager at a factory, and on the side, he's opened up his own brewery. That's what he wants to do. He's always had a passion for beer and how he's doing that. So, that's what we want to talk to. We want to talk to people that are transitioning in life and doing what they want to do. It sucks, because when you're 25 years old, you get a job somewhere and you want to do these other things, but it isn't until you get into your 40s or 50s, maybe that you can see how to do it. I wish it was the other way around.
And that's what, I've been talking about in this kind of upcoming book, and it's going to be a piece of another book. I'm going to have kind of the beginnings in there. And I talk about, it's Malcolm Gladwell's, 10,000 hour rule. You got to get the experience. You have to have the knowledge and you have to have the experience. You have to have both. And people have heard me go off the deep end on this sometimes, but it's one of those, you have to have both. Can you hit lightning in a bottle when you're 25? Mm-hmm. And yeah, sure. You come with a brilliant idea, but the odds are it's slim. Usually you got to go through, I had a mentor of mine who talked about stages of life. That first, till you're about 40, 45 is stage kind of 1-ish, maybe till 40. And then he talked about stage 2 and then stage 3. And stage 2 is kind of where you've got the wisdom now. You kind of figured some stuff out. You've been in the workforce long enough. Now you can kind of decide what you're excited about. If you're not doing what you want to do, you come up with a plan. So yeah, I wouldn't say you have to be that old, but you're right.
But you have to have experience.
You do. And we'll talk more about that too. We'll have some people on. We want to get some financial planners. Also, if you are a person who specializes or does coordinating of such as scheduling interviews, that would be a great help to Dwayne and I. If you are in that business and would like to help out two strapping old men who have limited time to go find people, that would be a big help.
All right. Well, guys, we appreciate you guys listening. And hopefully this political talk didn't piss you off too bad and you'll give us another chance. But anyway, you guys take it easy and we'll see you guys next week.